Sand and Fire is a military thriller written by a retired member of the Air National Guard. And with news of battles from the Middle East top of mind for so many of us over the past decade, it will feel very familiar. Author Tom Young joins me now. Thanks for being here and thank you for your service.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So tell me where you served.
I spent 20 years in the Air National Guard. I flew as a flight engineer on the C-130 Hercules and the C-5 Galaxy, which are large cargo planes. And of course, after 9/11, my unit began to get activated and to go out on deployments, and the experience of flying in Iraq and Afghanistan provided the inspiration for these stories.
Yeah, so you took your own experience and turned it into fiction?
I did, and the neat thing about the job that I had is that it put me into contact with a lot of different kinds of military personnel from all the different branches of service, because everybody needs supplies airlifted to them.
Right.
So without realizing it at first, I gathered a lot of great background information for writing stories that involve all the branches of the service.
So are there authentic details in your writing?
There are. Sand and Fire, as you mentioned, is a military thriller. It has lots of action. The pages turn quickly, but it's not just a military thriller. I try to create characters that reflect the values and the motivations of real-world military personnel. My characters are not comic book superheroes. They feel pain, they feel the cold and the heat, they have family concerns, but they get up every day and do their jobs to the best of their ability, just like the real-world military personnel we have at North Carolina bases like Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune.
Absolutely, and you talk about the family. That's a real struggle for the characters in your book, having to deal with duty and family.
That's true. In the opening chapter of Sand and Fire, my Marine Corps character, Gunnery Sergeant A.E. Blunt, has reached the 20-year point in his career, and he's promised his family he will retire and come home to stay. He's seen more than his share of combat, and he's told them he'll come home and he'll get a civilian job. But at that point, something happens that changes his life. A terrorist attack strikes a nightclub, and this attack kills a number of military personnel and civilians, including a friend of his. So he faces the difficult choice about keeping this promise to his family or going into action one more time to take down a terrorist group that killed an old friend.
So it sounds to me like the reader could be anyone from someone who served in the military to someone who maybe wants to serve to someone with no connection to the military.
Exactly. I often hear from military personnel who tell me they find these stories authentic, and it's wonderful to hear from fellow troops, fellow veterans who feel that way. But I also hope that these novels will reach civilian readers. Less than 1% of the American population has served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course that's because of the all-volunteer military.
Right.
And that creates something of a cultural gap between the military and the civilian population it serves. So with these novels, I hope to use an entertainment medium to help bridge that gap just a little bit.
You have another book that's called Phantom Fury.
I do. Phantom Fury is a short novel, or a novella, that's being published as an e-book in conjunction with Sand and Fire. And the two stories complement one another. You don't have to read one to understand the other, and if you read both, it doesn't matter what order you read them in. But the stories work together this way. Sand and Fire is set in the present day, mainly in North Africa. But as the story goes along, my character, Gunnery Sergeant Blunt, has memories of the Second Battle of Fallujah in 2004. Phantom Fury is set entirely within the Fallujah battle. And that story paints a deeper picture of that character. It puts Blunt in a situation where he finds a way to carry out an act of great compassion while surrounded by great brutality.
You have a book signing tonight.
Yes, tonight I'll be at the Regulator Bookshop in Durham at 7 o'clock.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was great to hear about your work.
Thanks so much.
We'll be right back.